Hey everybody, I'd like to walk you guys through the Special Ed 302 Differentiated Instruction book project. So when you're in your elementary education classroom, you're going to have students that are going to have needs, both remedial needs and potentially enrichment needs, depending on the student and the needs of your class. And it's going to be on us to be able to provide that range of experiences for our students, both remedial and enrichment if needed. So this Special Ed 302 differentiated text assignment is going to introduce you to a tool that's free on your MacBook called iBooks Author. We're also going to be using a couple tools in the app called Photos, and I'm going to show you how to do the technical end of what we're going to do for this particular assignment. So just really quickly, I'm going to go through the steps of this assignment. So basically our first step is you need to pick an early grade, either science or history topic. Try to focus on science more if you can, because you're going to have more, you're probably going to have an easier time finding some resources for that, especially at earlier grades, especially with regarding finding Indiana academic standards. It might be a little bit easier for you. So once you think of an interesting topic, what you're going to do is you're going to go to Ed Resources. That's in the basement of Bracken Library. And then over to the right, kind of to the right of the desk, that's down there on the bottom floor, is all the Ed Reserve stacks. They're closer, the further you get towards that back right corner of the basement, there's a couple stacks there that have actual textbooks, and here actually have textbooks. And they look like this, they're like teacher's editions, sometimes they're student editions. You definitely want one of these to complete your project, because you're going to be using that and taking some pages from that to use. And then what you're going to do is you're going to come back closer to the computers in the basement, and you're going to find a children's lit book that goes along with your topic. One thing I would say just for the course of this particular assignment is if you can find a shorter book, just for the sake of this particular assignment, it may save you a little bit of time, but make sure that it is relevant to your topic and it does add to something that you would want to teach on this particular topic. So you picked your topic, you went to Ed Reserves, and you got 2 books. You got a textbook and you got a kitty lit book. That's good. So we have all of our resources. The next step is we're going to take 2 pages of a section of the basal, and once again your basal textbook is this. Let's say you did something on plate tectonics and volcanoes, earthquakes and stuff like that. There would be a section, somewhere in your base, let's say section, 5.1 or 5.3, whatever. Anyways, you're going to find that in your book, and you're going to take the first 2 pages from that section, and what you're going to do is you're going to take all the information that is taught basically on those first 2 pages, or information that's covered in those first 2 pages, and you're going to paraphrase it and differentiate it in a program called iBooks Author. And I'm going to go ahead and show you iBooks Author right now. iBooks Author is free, and anyone with a Mac can just go to the App Store and download it. I'm going to go ahead and go to File, and we're going to make a new iBook just so I can show you from the start. First things first is you'll be able to decide, do you want a portrait, do you want landscape? I'm going to go ahead and choose landscape, but don't let that influence your decision on what you do. You're going to see over here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, you're going to have a couple titles, a couple of options here on the top left that I'll go through. Book title is where you can make a title for your book, or if you're customizing an already made book, you can feel free to just scan the cover of that book and drag and drop that picture right into our work area. Intro media is if you have any YouTube videos or something that might introduce your topic, but that's not necessarily a requirement for this course assignment. Something you will be using is the table of contents, because you're going to have 2 sections in your book, one for your basal and then one for your storybook. And not to get too far ahead, but when you make new pages in iBooks, you're going to have the options of chapter, section, and page. For For this particular assignment, I'm going to have you guys have one chapter with 2 sections. And basically, so your chapter will be whatever your main topic is. And I would assume just make this page, colorful and enticing, because that'll be the title page. It won't be the cover, but it'll be basically one of the first pages that they see. So we're going to make it more visually appealing. And then section 1 is going to be where we have our basal rework. And then section 2 is going to be our children's lit selection. So you have one chapter, 2 sections, and then whenever you want to make pages underneath the sections, you just click on whatever section you want. You go to pages, and then you can choose from any of these options. Sometimes blank is perfectly fine. So in your book rework or in your basal work, like I said, you're going to take your first 2 pages of that section of your topic, and what you're going to do is you're going to sit there and critically analyze it, and you're going to ask yourself a few questions. What is the main focus and the priority of my assignment, or of my objective of my lesson? Now, this is going back to the whole past variable from Master Apiary for Special Ed 302 students. The idea that we need to prioritize our objectives, especially for students with learning needs or difficulties. We're going to need to really focus maybe on 1 or 2 specific learning goals, where at the end of the day, if we can reach that as a point, we can leave being happy or satisfied with that. So we want to make sure that when you read those 2 pages, you want to prioritize what is the main thing that's being taught, what are the main priorities for my mini lesson. Also, you're going to do things such as identify key vocabulary words. This is going to be extremely key, and it's going to be a big part of your overall grade for this assignment. You're going to take your key vocabulary words, and you're going to go to this glossary area right here, and you're going to identify them and give developmentally appropriate definitions for. I have a couple right here. Let's say that we were going to do something on formations and stuff like that. If I was going to have an early elementary student trying to explain, plate tectonics, what I want to do is I want to be able to use words that are developmentally appropriate and understandable from a comprehension standpoint for students, while still giving the opportunities to learn new vocabulary. What we want to do is we want to show the new vocabulary and teach new vocabulary, but then as we're going through the actual 2 pages, let's say if there are other words that are either complicated or may be hard for a student, especially a student with some reading issues, to understand, we might want to consider first making the decision whether or not that word is an imperative vocabulary word that you would like to prioritize teaching, and if it isn't, you might want to consider a way to paraphrase that or to differentiate the wording of that phrase to make it more simple to understand for a emerging reader. So let's say if you want a new word, you basically just hit this little plus button, you type in the name of the word, and then you can come over here, and then you can add in stuff over here. So kids can get a little preview of the words that they're going to learn. And we're also basically laying them out right here under the category of previewing what we're going to be learning that particular day. We have our vocabulary words laid out here so we can get a little bit of time modeling and working with them before we actually get into the meat of the actual text. So students have some exposure and some time to look at and work with these words before they actually have to go in and, number 1, decode them when they're reading, and number 2, be able to understand them and the words around them. So you're going to use your 2 pages. Like I said, you're going to pick out your vocabulary that you want to be specific vocabulary that's targeted. That's going to go in the glossary area. Then you're also going to identify vocabulary that you don't need to prioritize, and you're going to paraphrase that, and then you're basically going to make rework those 2 pages. Any of the core information that was being taught in those pages should go in your section 1 book right here, and you're just going to recreate, and you have a large amount of freedom as to how you want to do this, but you're going to recreate the information on these pages that would otherwise be, and you can have as many pages as you want or need, by the way, but you're just going to recreate the information on those 2 pages in the basal on these pages in section 1 right here. Just for some tools that you can use up here at the top, you can see that we have text box. Anytime you hit text box, this is going to pop up randomly here, usually in the middle, and you can drag them around wherever you'd like. You have all the text editing features running here across the top that you can mess with. Also, feel free to add in any extra images or things that you pull from the internet or think that would add on to, and this isn't necessarily, here I'll use my smiley, why not? And it didn't show up, that's fine. But you can drag in pictures basically from Google. Just drag them to your desktop and then drag them right in. This is getting ahead of myself because this is for the kitty lit portion, but as you can see, I can drag stuff right from my desktop on there. And you can resize it with the little dots at the end. And here's my smiley, it's just really small. So if you find any pictures on the internet that you might think would go along well with text, understand with, and this is very important, and this goes along with getting points for, let's go ahead, adding in additional visual support, potentially pictures, potentially links to YouTube videos, or things that can help show visually the information that we're talking about in whatever your topic is. Remember that emerging readers, a lot of times, this is why they like storybooks with pictures and illustrations so much, because they can get a lot of context, glean a lot of context from the pictures and the visual media, so that can help supplement maybe their still mastering literacy skills. I mean, they're still mastering decoding words, they're still mastering understanding meaning and comprehension and things like that. So we want to use visual resources to help them along with that. So, I mean, that'd just be as simple as going to Google and searching for some images on your topic and picking ones that are relevant. You definitely want ones that are relevant and that will advance the student's understanding of whatever you're talking about, and really try to tie it closely. Okay, so I'm doing plate tectonics and stuff. If I just threw in a couple pictures of volcanoes, yeah, that's cool and everything, but I think what we can do is we can do a little bit better than that. So instead of just putting in pictures of volcanoes or something like that, we could look for pictures of plates and how they necessarily interact, where potentially they are, and then, okay, or like something like this, you can see, I forget what these things are called, but you can see the actual plates moving and interacting with each other, and I think there's a few names from, like slip slide and something else. But anyways, when you're going through and you could be explaining those, you would want to find very specific pictures. If you're making a book on something about plants, you just don't want to throw some random pictures of plants. You actually want to go and make the pictures very tailored to the text in that particular area of the page of the book. So like I said, you can literally just drag pictures a lot of times from Google right to your desktop, and then from your desktop right into iBooks, like so, and then you can resize it and do whatever using the little dots on the corner, like so. Okay, also feel free if you want to add in any shapes or something like that, especially these arrow tools. These are pretty helpful. One thing that I'm going to show you guys is our widgets, and widgets are an excellent way to differentiate and provide some extra options for students. I'm going to go to a blank page. Here at the widgets, gallery. This is basically like a slideshow, and you can put a few pictures in here, and you can just keep dragging in pictures. And then what the student will be able to do is, you can see that I have two little dots right here. When the student actually uses this with their iPad, they'll be able to use their fingers to actually swipe through the amount of pictures that are here, and you can see that you're gonna have this little work area over here. Your stuff's gonna show up over here for the most part. So I have my little list of my pictures, and they'll be able to swipe with two fingers. So that's a good way if you wanted to show multiple. And then you can also have a caption down here. And you can have individualized captions, which is really nice. So let's say if you wanted to have the different types of plate interactions, you could have this type of plate interaction, and then this type, and then up here for the title, you can put something to the effect of swipe along, or these pictures to see the different types and names of plate interactions. And once again, I would think, okay, going back to developmentally appropriate vocabulary. Maybe this isn't the best way that I could possibly word this. Let's go back and look at this. Always go back and look at stuff after you write it to see if your student would be able to easily understand that, or that would be harder. So instead of names of plate interactions, okay, so you said to see the different types of plates and how they affect each other. That's better than interaction. Interaction might be a hard word to decode. It might be a hard word to understand, and that might throw them off. So once again, going back and always looking at the text that you put in, is that going to be something that your student is going to be able to read or understand? So anyways, I wanted to show you that widget. Also, another cool one is this review widget. And what you can do is you can put in and have little checks for understanding right here. You can type in the name of your question right here and the different answer choices. You can also do some different options here. Once again, you're going to have your menu on the right. If you hit this little plus button, you're going to have some different question types pop up here. This is a particularly good one, especially for younger readers, because you're going to have a picture response, and you could say which one would be the slip slide joint, I believe is what's called when they, or whatever the fault. It's a fault. Okay, the slip slide fault. So then you can have 4 pictures, and they have to identify, okay, which one is the slip slide, on and on. And you just drag the pictures right into these boxes. I'm going to go ahead and drag this one just right into here so you can see, there it is. And you just click which one should be right, and then when they go to take it, they will get that nice little reinforcement there for them. But I just recommend to look around with some of these. You can always input in things like a keynote into there. The one thing that is cool that I'll look with this is interactive image. Let's say if you have a diagram or something like that that you want to put in. Let's go ahead and use our slip slide again. Yes, this does have some things that come up, but what you're going to see is when you throw something into the interactive image, you're going to get this little guy to come up. It's a little caption, and then with a little dot. You can just move this little dot anywhere on the diagram or the picture, and then you can title it and say, here's the fault, line. And then not only can you say fault line, because okay, everybody's seen diagrams like this diagram in the back. It's got the names of stuff, whatever, that's great. What if we want to learn more about a fault line? Using this drop-down describer box, you can put literally as much, as much info as you like about it. Then when kids go to learn and they can click on it, they'll basically be able to poke the part that says fault line. And then I know this is in preview, so it's not showing up perfectly. Let's see if I can make this show up, but I'm not going to mess with it for too long. I just want more volume of text here. Let's go ahead. Okay, there we go. This is what I wanted to see. So when they look at this, they're going to see just fault line, and that's great, but how we can differentiate that is click, and then boom, look at all that extra information that we gave them about the fault line. So it's like a diagram plus. So you're really going to be left to your own devices as far as how you want to organize your content. You are the teacher. You will be the subject matter experts, and we leave it to your decision making to be able to sequence and basically plan and deliver a logical sequence-based lesson. Specifically for this assignment, we want you to focus on making sure that you preview and identify the key vocabulary that will be taught. Also identify any other words that are non-vocabulary but students may have a hard time interacting with. We would either A, prioritize them and make them vocab, or B, potentially paraphrase them so that students can focus on the things that they really do are going to use and do need to learn, and they won't be hindered by having to decode or comprehend something that is outside of the prioritized objective. So that's basically going to be section 1. Like I said, take the 2 pages from your basal and completely rework them in here. You don't have to retype the basal into here, but you do want to paraphrase and make sure that all the relevant information from those 2 pages is in this first section. Now for your second section, you're going to have your storybook. And when you get your storybook, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go to the library or maybe like a residence or somewhere. If you have a scanner, you want to take scans of all your pictures of all the pages of your book, including the front and the back cover. If you have an iPhone, you might be able to take high enough quality videos, but you're going to have to worry because what you don't want is for like a bunch of like fingers to be poking in. That doesn't look very professional. Using a flatbed scanner is a good habit to get into, so you might want to use it now, but in a pinch you could probably do this with an iPhone if it's a late enough model and the camera's good. So basically you scan all your stuff and you're going to create a folder. I have one right here, 302 scanned pics from my book, and I would just put all the scans into this particular folder. It's going to make your life easier just to keep everything organized. We're going to make a couple more folders before we're done. So I'm going to go into photos here, and then what you're going to want to do, you're going to see up at the top left, you're going to go to File and New Album. And I'm going to go ahead and name this 302 DI Text. Very good. And then what's going to happen is you should see the option to put in pictures and stuff from your iTunes or from your Photos app. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and hit continue without clicking anything to make a blank album because I haven't imported any of my scans into my Photos album. That's where this folder is going to come in. So in this folder, theoretically, you should have all of your scanned pages from your book. Okay, starting with the front cover and going to the back cover. I have one here that I'm going to do as an example. Oops, not this one. Let's go ahead and delete that. I wanted this one. That's better. And so, okay, so let's just imagine this is my entire book and there's 30. Okay, 30 might be a lot of pages because that's quite a bit of work for you guys. But however many pages your book is, that's how many pictures you should see here with your covers and stuff. You need to do a couple things to these before they're ready to go into iBooks Author. So what you're going to do is you're just going to click on your page, and up here at the top right you're going to see they should have 2 things up here at the top right. Depending on your version, you're going to have an edit button right here. If you have an edit button right here, you want to hit the edit button. If you don't have the edit button right here, and yours looks like mine where it says details, you should have this option immediately to the left of details that says edit photo, and that's what we want to hit. So either it's going to say edit here, or you're going to have this little looking button right here. Either way, you want to hit it, and you know you've done this right because the screen basically turns black. That's good. Now for this particular assignment, we're going to be using something called the retouch tool. This looks like the little band-aid here on the right side of your photos. And originally this was used to like remove skin blemishes and stuff, but we have found ways to use it more creatively. So we touch retouch, and you're going to see that we have this vertical slider, and it's basically going to show how big your brush is. It's usually fine right here. If you move it up and down, you can see it get bigger, smaller. Like I said, this is about an okay size. Just as a disclaimer, this doesn't work 100% of the time. If this doesn't work the first time, it usually will work the second time or the third time. Utilize Command Z, which is the undo tool. That'll help you. Let's say, oops, I screwed up. Command Z, it's back to normal. No big deal. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, but it will work. It's at 60% of the time. It works 100% of the time. So for whatever that's worth, what you do is you basically spray paint over where the text is while you're holding the mouse down, and then once everything's spray painted, you let the mouse go. And as you can see, it didn't work for me. Okay, so I'm going to do it again. Spray paint. Spray paint. Okay. This is why we use the undo tool. And there we go. So what I ended up doing sometimes, if it is tricky, is you can kind of just like touch, 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 touch. This isn't an exact science, it's more of an art form, but you can make it happen. Okay, so eventually what we do is we could have our deleted text off of our page. That looks good. So what we can do is we can go ahead and we can say done, and we can go back to our album. And okay, let's fast forward. Let's say we've done that for all of our pages. Now, disclaimer, you do not have to do the front cover, the back cover, the title page, or the credits page. You start with the first page of your book, right? The first page is like, there's a sunny morning or whatever, and then it goes to the last page of the book, the end. Don't worry about the credits page. That's too much to do, especially for the scope of this assignment. Okay, so we're fast forwarding. We did all of the pages in our book, and they're all done. Okay, I'm gonna put in one more picture just to make an example. And that after you've done this, you want to make another new folder, and I just recommend this on the desktop is fine, and we can call it 302 finalized edited pics for DI storybook. Something like that, just so you know the difference between the fresh scans and then the edited scans. That's going to be important. What we're going to do is we're going to click somewhere on our album in Command A. Also, you can just box everything if you want. Command A. Command A is really easy and quick. And then we go to File, and you're going to go to Export. Down here. Oops. Oh, I clicked outside of iBooks Author. That's what happened. So we go here, we go to Export, and then you're going to have the option of, oops, I clicked off the program. That was the problem. Okay, so then what we can do is we can get back in to our albums. Okay. And 1 second here. Photos is being slow but slow. Let's see. Here we go. That's what one that we want. Very good. Okay, it was being a little bit slow. Sorry about that. So we have all of our finished scans. Command A, File, Export. You're going to see that there's the little arrow over, and then you're going to this one, Export blank, Export X photos. That's what we want to do. And this is all fine. Just go to Export. Then you're going to go to your Save menu once it comes up, which is taking a couple minutes. There we go. we choose our folder that we did right here. We want to open it so that we're inside the blank folder we want it to export to. Export. And I'm going to go ahead and open this folder up for you guys. And you can see here's my exported photos. And I'm going to open this up just to make sure. Boom, it's empty. So you've done all the hard work to this point. It gets much, much easier from here. So for right here, for your front page of your section 2, you could probably just put the title of the page of the book right here, or the cover of the book here. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to start. By the way, for this, I recommend that you choose the blank option when you make pages for your section for when you're making the book, because you don't want to have to mess with anything you don't have to. So what we do is we just drag our book page in, and that's great. Let's see. Okay, so we can see that's where the page is going to end. Here's our page, our workspace right here. I'm going to make it bigger, as big as we can. You don't have to make it too big. Okay, we just want to make it as big as we can fit it on the page. Then always right-click your image and make sure that you align it to the center, and then you align it to the middle, just so it's in the middle of the page. So last step, you take a text box tool right here, text box, you drag it to where your text used to be. You might want to make it a little bit bigger if you'd like, especially if you have the room. Bigger is usually better. And then what you're going to do is you're going to basically retype the text from your book, your Kitty Lit book, goes here. And you're just going to redo that process for the entirety of your book. This is somewhat of a time-consuming, a little bit time-consuming, but at the same time, we won't always have the luxury of choosing the ease of how easy it will be to work with our students. So in a sense, this is an excellent tool, not only to help students who both need remedial and enrichment help, but also just to develop a good digital library of resources. Because I mean, you do this once, you have it forever. So for section 2, like I said, your first page is going to have your book title or the cover of your book right there. And then you're just going to have your first page, and then you're just going to go until you have all your pages, and then that's the end of your second section. So let's go back here. Okay, so this is how we went over how to do everything in photos. So your finished project, you're going to export me one iBook. How do you export an iBook? Good question. What you're going to do is you're done with your iBook, you're going to go to File, and you're going to go to Export. When you go to Export, you're going to choose the iBook format. And I'm going to go to Next. You're going to give it a file name, 302di.ibooks. Done. And then that is the file you'll be able to put onto Blackboard. That file then will be able to be opened on any iBook, on any Mac, any iPad, anywhere. And also, since you went to the trouble of typing in the text, the computer will see that text as text instead of an image. And they'll be able to use things like VoiceOver. They'll be able to tap on words that they don't understand and utilize the dictionary from iBook. It's pretty nice. So, like I said, you're going to give me one exported iBook file that has those two sections. The first section is the paraphrased, customized pages from your Basil. That's 2 pages. And then the second half is going to be your storybook with all of your text taken out through photos and then put back in through iBooks. So here's the point breakdown. Your instructor may differ the actual point values, but just know that it's going to be 20%, 20%. There's 5 components that you get points for, and each of them compiles 20% of the overall amount of points. Basically 20%, I have this at 50 points, so 20% of your grade is going to be the Basil or the text rework, which means that you actually go and you display the content from your basal in a logical and sequential and otherwise meaningful way. That's 10 points right there using the basal. 10 points for your emerging literacy DI, or differentiated instruction, identifying key vocabulary terms. So that's going to be basically how you use text in your iBook project. Remember that vocabulary that might not be age or developmentally appropriate, we have to make a decision. A, are we prioritizing it as a specific vocab for the lesson? Or B, do I potentially need to modify, paraphrase, or otherwise? If you are prioritizing it in your lesson, you want to make sure that that goes in the glossary so that kids can preview it. And if it's not, paraphrase. Also, 10 points for integrated differentiated resources. Remember that we were talking about how students learn visually through context. That's why they like storybooks with great animation, or not animation, but illustration so much. It's because they can understand what's going on by looking at the pictures almost as much as they can trying to read and decode text, especially the little emerging readers. So it's important that we put, and we don't blow this off, we actually want to really think and critically analyze what sort of media can we put in to supplement or to enhance a student's comprehension or understanding of a lesson. So 10 points for using good external resources, and remember that you can include IBA widgets, and remember that widgets are these things right here. Remember that you can have the interactive tool, you could have the carousel, you could have the test, you could put in any of this other stuff as well. But you want to be creative, and you want to definitely have your resources add to the book rather than just be like, oh, I had to put pictures, so here's a picture. Okay, so 10 books for properly doing the Kitty Lit book. That's basically putting into photos, taking the text out, putting it back into iBooks, and putting the text back. You do that, 10 points, or 20% of your grade. And then lastly, the overall digital environment. That has to do with the overall design elements, how you use color, making sure that everything is easily readable, all of your elements work and are in place. I also understand that there's not any readability issues, like I said, with text size or with, let's say, like a color contrast issue, choosing a bad background and foreground color choice that makes it, difficult to read, or something like that. It should look nice. The environment should be thought out. It should be engaging and colorful, not plain Jane, but at the same time, it shouldn't be so colorful that it is distracting or creates some sort of color contrast issue. But basically, the overall digital environment, how does it look, and also do all the elements work within the iBook? That's another 10 points right there. So that's basically a total of 50 points. And like I said, your instructor can scale it however they like. I just have 5 sections, each divided up 20%. Okay, so I basically went through and I showed you how to set up your iBook. I went in and showed you how to go into photos and customize your book. Go in, put the photos in, edit them, export them, and do all that good stuff. I think that you guys have all the skills that you need to go ahead and start this assignment. If you do need help on this assignment, the iCare Corner on the 2nd floor of Teachers College should be equipped with the personnel that should know iBook and be able to help you with that. Also, feel free to contact your instructor, and they can get into contact with me. And I have open office hours in the Special Ed Adaptive Lab, basically 3 to 5 p.m. on Thursdays. That's in TC 708. You can get help most Thursdays for that, not necessarily every Thursday because sometimes I have meetings, but most Thursdays, especially if you come closer to 3, I'll be there for help. So best of luck, and let your instructor know with any questions that you have. Thanks.